Greetings, spirit beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome on Try Something.Vegetarian on YouTube. Today is Monday, the 24th of June, 1:05 at night. This is the broadcast Putin's Doomsday weapon nuclear torpedoes that cause 90-meter high tsunamis. So what I'm gonna cover in this broadcast are a couple of articles. I am live, alright. And this is the main article I want to read. This is on Business Insider Co.za. Business Insider Tech. Putin's nuclear doomsday machine could trigger 90-meter tsunamis, but the worst effects might come from the fallout. A 2018 article. And I'm also going to cover 12 things you should know about scalar weapons by Christy Verismo. And I want to start off by talking about this. This is also an interesting website. Oh, this is the Deep Black Lies website, I think. Looks like, but it's another website, so... Anyway, let's get right into it. So basically what we're talking about are these tsunamis. And people have never set off that many nukes before, if there would be a world war, basically. Of course, it must be prevented, mutually assured destruction, 7-year nuclear winter, and it's possible none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive the Third World War, with all these WMD surrounding us all. But the more important point, I think, is to prevent this also because the Earth is already wobbling. So the Earth is continuously spinning, but it's wobbling on its axis. So that's caused by something, perhaps meteor strikes, perhaps also nuclear tests that were done. Gigantic bombs that were set off. I don't know if they've studied what the effect was on the Earth spinning, wobbling. And I'm sure that they've never set off that many nukes before simultaneously. And Tesla also wrote that he could split the Earth. And well, these types of doomsday devices should be destroyed or sabotaged. And of course, if the Earth would spin off axis, then it could crash into the moon. It's spinning around in 23.98 hours. The Earth makes one rotation, and so that's why I think that it's unwise, and I'm for dismantling all nuclear weapons, and it's proven beyond any reasonable doubt that these scalar weapons also exist. More about it in my broadcast about scalar patterns, in my broadcast about vegetarian Nikola Tesla's death ray to end all wars, basically, his scalar weapon. And well, let's take a look at what it would look like if they'd set off this weapon, because I'm in the Netherlands and many people live near the coast. Oh, then I have to turn off the left bottom corner thing. That will also be better for our CPU. Okay. Oops. Don't want file attributes. Working with a program I don't work with normally. Where can I hide the mouse pointer? There. Okay. So this is from a movie, of course, it's not real, but it gives an impression of what would happen when these 90-meter high tsunami waves are created. And this is in slow-mo, so we have to go very fast. In Florida I was swimming and I was also swept off my feet by a wave, and I almost broke my neck when I landed with my head in the sand somehow. And often when people are boating, I saw a movie about Kon-Tiki. Again, it's a pretty good movie. So in the end they have to get over a reef basically, so you have reefs that ships can crash on. I don't know what point I wanted to make anyway. It's oh yeah, that waves have a tremendous pressure and power, and they can this would kill also people in a bomb shelter that's not waterproof, because some people claim that it's stupid to use this thing. So theoretically it could wipe California off the map, Florida, etc. And theoretically that wave would be generated in a circle, so it would affect multiple places on our globe. Places near the coast mainly. Let's see. Does the spacebar work? I thought previous time I tested it worked. So yeah, that can happen. But because of normalcy bias, people think that it won't happen. Beautifully made. The title of this movie is also in the article, and these are animated GIFs. So it's a combination of scenes basically. So basically it looks very real. So that's the Fast Stone image viewer. You can also make slideshows with this. But now to the article, Business Insider. Putin's nuclear doomsday machine. Well, basically with a doomsday that would mean the end of humanity. And some people claim that we can blow up our planet over 150 times or something, I think. We have nuclear, biological, chemical weapons, and scalar weapons, directed energy weapons, particle beam, and that type of thing. Oh yeah, let's read it first. I have smoothie with real strawberries.
Putin's nuclear doomsday machine could trigger 90-meter tsunamis, but the worst effects might come from the fallout. Dave Mosher, Business Insider US. April 25, 2018, 10:33 a.m., Paramount, Deep Impact. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently said Russia was developing a nuclear-powered torpedo that could detonate a massive nuclear weapon. Such a device might create a 90 meters tsunami if exploded in the right location and could rain long-lasting radioactive fallout on a coastal target. Experts have described the hypothetical weapon as a doomsday device, saying it could spread unprecedented and long-lived radioactive fallout, but one researcher said such a weapon would be stupid, as it would greatly limit its damage compared with an airburst. During Russian President Vladimir Putin's address to the Federal Assembly on 1 March, he described a plethora of nuclear weapons he said Russia was developing. One of these proposed weapons, an autonomous submarine, stood out among the depictions of falling warheads and nuclear-powered cruise missiles. According to a Kremlin translation, PDF, of Putin's remarks, he said the autonomous drone would quietly travel to great depths, move faster than a submarine or boat, have hardly any vulnerabilities for the enemy to exploit, and carry massive nuclear ordnance. It is really fantastic, he said, adding, there is simply nothing in the world capable of withstanding them. He also said Russia finished testing a nuclear-powered engine for the drones in December. Unmanned underwater vehicles can carry either conventional or nuclear warheads, which enables them to engage various targets, including aircraft groups.
So this is the Tesla plasma shield. The only thing that can shield against scalar waves. And the idea is also that people might make a portable Tesla plasma shield, for example, Halo. So a device that is placed around the brain, basically, that looks like these iconic paintings of supposed holy men and priests and the Virgin Mary also. And they have sort of a halo. So the idea is something that protects a Tesla plasma shield, a small shield that protects our brainwave against brainwave alteration with synthetic telepathy as described in the Malech patent. And they use scalar waves, of course, not microwaves. And this ball is about 3 kilometers in diameter. It's a Chinese Tesla plasma shield, and there are 15 scalar weapon countries. We'll get to that later.
Coastal fortifications, and infrastructure, he said. The mushroom cloud caused by the Soviet Union Tsar Bomba 57 megaton nuclear test. The mushroom cloud caused by the Soviet Union Tsar Bomba 57 megaton nuclear test, Minatom, Wikipedia. Putin did not refer to the device by name in his speech, but it appears to be the Oceanic Multipurpose System Status 6, also known as Canyon or Putin's Doomsday Machine. The Russian government reportedly leaked a diagram of such a weapon in 2015 that suggested it would carry a 50 megaton nuclear bomb about as powerful as Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear device detonated to date. Nuclear physicists say such a weapon could cause a local tsunami, though they question its purpose and effectiveness, given the far more terrible destruction that nukes can inflict when detonated above ground. Why Putin's doomsday device could be terrifying. A nuclear weapon detonated below the ocean's surface could cause great devastation. The U.S.'s underwater nuclear tests of the 1940s and 50s, including Operations Crossroads Baker and Hardtack Wahoo, demonstrated why. These underwater fireballs were roughly as energetic as the bombs dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki in August 1945. In the tests, they burst through the surface, ejecting pillars of seawater more than 1.6 kilometers high while rippling out powerful shockwaves. Some warships staged near the explosions were vaporized, others were tossed like toys in a bathtub and sank, while a few sustained cracked hulls and crippled engines. Notably, the explosions roughly doubled the height of waves to nearby islands, flooding inland areas. A well-placed nuclear weapon of yield in the range 20 mountain to 50 mountain near a seacoast could certainly couple enough energy to equal the 2011 tsunami, and perhaps much more. Rex Richardson, a physicist who researches nuclear weapons, told Business Insider, referring to the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that killed more than 15,000 people in Japan, taking advantage of the rising seafloor amplification effect. Tsunami waves reaching 100 meters in height are possible, Richardson said. Richardson and other experts have also pointed out that a nearshore blast from this type of weapon could suck up tons of ocean sediment, irradiate it, and rain it upon nearby areas, generating catastrophic radioactive fallout. Los Angeles or San Diego would be particularly vulnerable to fallout due to the prevailing onshore winds, Richardson said, adding that he lives in San Diego. The problem with blowing up nukes underwater. An annotated diagram of Russia's so-called Doomsday Machine autonomous submarine nuclear weapon. Click to enlarge. An annotated diagram of Russia's so-called Doomsday Machine autonomous submarine nuclear weapon. Click to enlarge. Brookings Institution, Madness Genius, CC by SE 4.0. Greg Spriggs, a nuclear weapons physicist at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory.
So basically I've shown two pictures of Trump with Epstein of the Lolita Island, and they say he's building a new island or something like that, and people claim that he's a Mossad agent used to extort leaders. So he also has these connections with Hillary and Bill Clinton. And Control the Position usually only talks about Hillary and Bill's relation with Epstein.
Said a 50 megaton weapon could possibly induce a tsunami and hit a shoreline with the energy equivalent to a 650 kiloton blast. But he said it would be a stupid waste of a perfectly good nuclear weapon. That's because Spriggs believes it's unlikely that even the most powerful nuclear bombs could unleash a significant tsunami after detonating underwater. The energy in a large nuclear weapon is but a drop in the bucket compared to the energy of a, naturally, occurring tsunami, Spriggs previously told Business Insider, so any tsunami created by a nuclear weapon couldn't be very large. For example, the 2011 tsunami in Japan released about 9.3 million megatons of TNT energy. That's hundreds of millions of times as much as the bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945 and roughly 163,000 times as much as the Soviet Union's test of Tsar Bomba on October 30, 1961. Plus, Spriggs said, the energy of a blast wouldn't all be directed toward shore, it would radiate outward in all directions, so most of it would be wasted going back out to sea. A detonation several kilometers from a coastline would deposit only about 1% of its energy as waves hitting the shore. That scenario may be more likely than an attack closer to the shore, assuming U.S. systems could detect an incoming Status 6 torpedo. But even if such a weapon were on the doorstep of a coastal city or base, its purpose would be questionable, Spriggs said.
So I think I've also heard a story, I don't know if it was Tom Bearden or someone else, that talked about scalar coils in the sea near the coast or something that they can use to generate these tidal waves, perhaps. But it was a weird story because these scalar waves travel through all materials known to man, and where they cross, they produce an electromagnetic field with the characteristics they desire, so they could also create explosions, and they can be used in endo and exothermic mode. We'll get to that later. But I remembered the story, I don't know where I got it, so I've been searching that. But perhaps it's best to just read 12 Things We Should Know About Scalar Weapons by Christy Verismo again, to refresh my memory.
This would produce a fraction of the damage the same 50-mount weapon could do if it were detonated above a large city, Spriggs said. If there is some country out there that is angry enough at the United States to use a nuclear weapon against us, why would they opt to reduce the amount of damage they impose in an attack? Is the doomsday weapon real? Russian President Vladimir Putin, Sputnik Photo Agency, Reuters. Putin fell short of confirming the existence of Status 6, though he did say the December tests of its power unit enabled us to begin developing a new type of strategic weapon to carry a huge nuclear bomb. The Trump administration even addressed the possible existence of the weapon in its most recent nuclear posture review. Now watch, here's how easy it is for the US president to launch a nuclear weapon. In a 2015 article in Foreign Policy, Jeffrey Lewis, an expert on nuclear policy at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, dubbed the weapon Putin's Doomsday Machine. He wrote that,
well, I saw a video about it, but in the first scenario it took like 15 minutes before they could nuke, basically. But the DEFCON system, I think, retaliates automatically, and then there's no human decision involved. Hope that can not get an error. So then the theoretical question arises, do all computers get errors at a certain point in time, even if they are cooled without fans but with other cooling systems, etc.? How long can it go right? And of course I hope it's in no way connected to the internet.
There was speculation that the underwater weapon might be salted, or surrounded with metals like cobalt, which would dramatically extend fatal radiation levels from fallout, possibly for years or even decades, since the burst of neutrons emitted in a nuclear blast could transform those metals into long-lived, highly radioactive chemicals sprinkled all over. What sort of sick bastards dream up this kind of weapon? Lewis wrote, noting that such salted weapons were featured in the 1964 science fiction Cold War parody film Dr. Strangelove. To Lewis, it doesn't necessarily matter whether Status 6 is a real or psychological bluff designed to prevent the US from attacking Russia or its allies. Simply announcing to the world that you find this to be a reasonable approach to deterrence should be enough to mark you out as a dangerous creep, he said. Receive a single.
So it reminds me, I do hate the bomb, and I hope we can get rid of all nukes, dismantle all nuclear weapons. They can't save anybody, and we need to control all factors that control aging in time. Safety first, minimize the risk. Make mutually assured destruction an impossibility somehow.
WhatsApp message every morning with all our latest news. Sign up here. businessinsider.co.za members.imtro.com.o What is Scalar Electromagnetics? By Rick Anderson, July 3, 1997. http://twm.co.nz/beard_scalum.html. Scalar M is the brainchild of Lieutenant, Col. Retired, Thomas E. Bearden, a systems analyst and wargames specialist who has been advocating a view of electromagnetics which is based on the notion of a vast, unseen background of scalar energies, as opposed to vector energies, which underlie all physical reality. What electrical engineers work with today, claims Bearden, is a subset of a higher topology M. Bearden claims that the four Maxwell's equations taught today in electrical engineering are actually an oversimplified subset of Maxwell's original work. The pruning was done by Oliver Heaviside in the late 19th century. Heaviside took Maxwell's original equations, written in Hamilton's quaternions, related to what we nowadays call spinors, and simplified them by lopping off the scalar part of the complex numbers, leaving the easy-to-work-with vector part intact, which radio engineers loved. After all, the entire electronics industry as we know it grew out of the telephone, radio technologies of the early 1900s. Who can argue that the vector approach is inadequate? Well, Bearden says that when Heaviside threw out the scalar part of the quaternionic M equation, he unknowingly threw out the possibility of unifying gravitation with electromagnetism, which has been a holy grail for scientists since Einstein himself wrestled with the problem. That's because the scalar part of the quaternion, according to Bearden, was the part that captured or modeled the stress on the ether, which leads to curving, warping space-time a la Einstein. Tom Bearden says we can unify gravity with M, and convert back and forth between them, if we understand how vectors and scalars relate to one another.
I have a new theory about prophecies. You have that book 1900 or Less Precedent and Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, written in 1893 by Ingersoll Lockwood. And perhaps that's to prevent that scenario where Trump would be the last president and then there would be a world war and then a global government after population reduction to 500 million. And we should do the opposite. We should control factors that control aging and create a perfect society. And I think they are not going to see a perfect society built during their lifetime if they produce a world war. And that it could be the end of the world, literally, that the earth could spin off axis or gigantic earthquakes could erupt. The dinosaurs may also have died of earthquakes. And volcanoes that erupt can put soot in the atmosphere and then it would become dark and very cold, and it would be horrible for everyone. Also, drowning is no nice experience. In that movie I watched today, Kon-Tiki, they describe what happens when people drown. Because some people claim it's a nice experience, but it's not. So they describe it very well in that movie. So that's a movie worth watching. And the other one, of course, with these animated GIFs, is Paramount Deep Impact. Okay. So preventing beats curing. Not to do it unless we can control the outcome. And so then you basically need to travel where these tsunamis cannot hit you, basically. So I had a precognitive vision of myself drowning in this room, hit by a tidal wave, I thought, or, well, they call it a tsunami. That was the difference between the two. That's also somewhere. What is the difference between a tsunami and a tidal wave? Although both are sea waves, a tsunami and a tidal wave are two different and unrelated phenomena. A tidal wave is a shallow water wave caused by the gravitational interactions between the Sun, Moon, and Earth. Tidal wave was used in earlier times to describe what we now call a tsunami. A tsunami is an ocean wave triggered by large earthquakes that occur near or under the ocean. Triggered by earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, submarine landslides, or by onshore landslides in which large volumes of debris fall into the water. Okay. And another thing they always leave out are these geoengineering weapons, weather weapons, punching holes in the Earth's ionosphere, and they're called ionospheric heaters, not ionospheric coolers. And, well, that's what you do when you burn natural gas, basically, I guess. And there's a bigger FIPA array, a camouflaged phased array antenna park in Poker Flat, Alaska, and there are 15 scalar weapon countries. And it's possible that if a world war would occur, that none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive it. And there are many agreements and what's the word? Treaties. So I think it would have been the end already if Trump would have attacked, and about 150 people would have died. If Trump would have attacked Iran, then its ally Russia would have retaliated, and so it's vital for President Trump to first make an agreement with Putin so that it cannot escalate into a world war. And I think it's vital to create universal peace as fast as possible, and the best way to reduce global population is education, because educated people have a lower birth rate.
And what the ramifications are. Vector fields can evidently be assembled by properly interfering scalar potentials, predicted in 1903 by mathematician E.T. Whittaker and probably engineered by the Soviets. Conversely, scalar fields can be created by destructively interfering vector fields, in a nonlinear medium. Varying the vector components rhythmically produces what Bearden calls scalar waves. These ripples in space-time are believed to induce a wave-like stress in the ether. This in turn leads to engineering the structure of pure space and our mass in a localized area, in other words, implementing general relativity, space-time curvature, on the lab bench. Tom Bearden has gone on record, in several of his books published in the 1980s, to proclaim that the former Soviet Union had created a fantastic arsenal of mind-bending weaponry based on the scalar technology, which they called energetics, and which Bearden claims was developed from certain discarded ideas originated by Nikola Tesla. Now that the Cold War is apparently over, we're not sure how Bearden views his previous assertions, but we note that he has turned his attention away from Soviet scalar weapons and toward the production of free energy from the vacuum of space, using the principles of optical phase conjugation, but in a more generalized mode. Here is the point. If Bearden is correct in his scalar M theory, then we can build devices which would enable us to alter gravity, time, inertia, and the apparent mass of an object. This of course has enormous implications for military applications, space vehicle drives, time travel, teleportation, paranormal phenomena, and just about every other area one can think of. The big question is, will the 21st century see the acceptance, development, and implementation of Bearden's ideas, in plain public view, mind you,
Or will scalar M be found to have been just another dead end? Do certain world governments have these devices now? Bearden says at least 3 other nations, not hostile to the US, now possess scalar technology. "12 Things You Should Know About Scalar Weapons" by Christy Verismo. Brace yourself for scalar weapon war that could occur. Published in Commander X's Guide to Incredible Conspiracies. 1. A possible scalar war scenario. 2. How were scalar waves discovered? 3. A closer look at scalar waveforms. 4. How do scalar weapons work? 5. What can scalar weapons do? 6. Scalar beams against individuals. 7. Scalar mind control. 8. America's no-contact mass mind-controlling network. 9. Inducing diseases with scalar waves. 10. Tesla's technology was secretly continued by Russia and the Nazis. 11. Is there a secret war going in the skies? 12. WHO else is continuing Tesla's scalar technology. 1. A possible scalar war scenario. The following seems like science fiction, but scalar beam weapons were invented in 1904 by Nikola Tesla, an American immigrant from Yugoslavia. 1856 or 57-1943, since he died in 1943, many nations have secretly developed his beam weapons, which now further refined are so powerful that just by satellite one can make a nuclear-like destruction, earthquake, hurricane, tidal wave, cause instant freezing, killing every living thing instantly over many miles, cause intense heat like a burning fireball over a wide area, induce hypnotic mind control over a whole population, or even read anyone on the planet's mind by remote, affect anybody's REM dream sleep by sending in subliminal pictures to the visual cortex, cause hallucinogen drug-like effects or the symptoms of chemical or biological poisoning, make a disease epidemic by imprinting the disease signature right into the cellular structure, paralyze and/or kill everyone instantaneously in a 50-mile radius, and lastly remove something right out of its place in time and space faster than the speed of light, without any detectable warning, by crossing 2 or more beams with each other on any target can be aimed at, even right through to the opposite side of the Earth. If either of the major scalar weapon-armed countries, for example US or Russia, were to fire a nuclear missile to attack each other, this may possibly not even reach the target, because the missile could be destroyed with scalar technology before it even left its place or origin. The knowledge via radio waves that it was about to be fired could be eavesdropped, and the target could be destroyed in the bunker, fired at from space by satellite. Alternatively, invisible moving barriers and globes made of plasma, produced by cross-scalar beams, could destroy any nuclear missile easily while it moves towards the target, and failing all these, it could be destroyed by entering the target's territory by passing through a Tesla shield, which would explode anything entering its airspace. To begin with, defense using scalar technology could intercept it before it even landed. Secret eavesdropping of radio communications, tapping into ordinary military radio contact using undetectable scalar wave carriers, hacking, and may have heard military personnel say it was about to be fired. The missile may be destroyed from above the site, using satellites equipped with scalar or particle beam weapons, or a cloaked UFO, American or Russian-made anti-gravity disc originally made by back engineering crashed alien saucers, or aircraft using scalar or particle beams which could invisibly, and undetectably with standard equipment, cause the target to malfunction and drop down, by using a scalar wave, radar-like, interference grid, which covers both countries' entire military activities in the air, underground or undersea. Scalar transmitters send waves over large areas at 90° angles to each other. These waves follow the Earth ionospheric waveguide and curve around the planet. It is called an interference grid because all solid moving objects show up as a spot of light moving through marked grid squares on an operator's video screen. Scalar waves are a higher form of radar waves, but they go one step further by passing through anything solid too, and are able to detect and be able to be made into a focused beam to target anything through the earth or sea as well. A scalar beam can be sent from a transmitter to the target, coupled with another sent from another transmitter, and as they cross an explosion can be made. This interference grid method could enable scalar beams to explode the missile before launch, as well as en route with knowing the right coordinates. If the target does manage to launch, what are known as Tesla globes or Tesla hemispheric shields can be sent to envelop a missile or aircraft. These are made of luminous plasma which emanates physically from cross-scalar beams and can be created any size, even over 100 miles across. Initially detected and tracked as it moves on the scalar interference grid, a continuous EMP, electromagnetic pulse, Tesla plasma globe could kill the electronics of the target. More intensely hot Tesla fireball globes could vaporize the missile. Tesla globes could also activate a missile's nuclear warhead en route by creating a violent low-order nuclear explosion. Various parts.
So yeah, they're also manipulating the weather, though they leave that off their list of man-made causes of global warming. Also cancer chemtrails trapping the heat between the earth and the clouds formed by the cloud seeding planes, CIA's evergreen aviation planes. And then there was space travel with chlorine-based propellants, and chlorine breaks down the ozone layer, and these ionospheric heaters punching holes in the Earth's ionosphere. So these are the main causes of man-made global warming. And of course you also need to include cancer cell phone radiation, cancer DSM, cancer UMTS, cancer Bluetooth, cancer Wi-Fi. All the same type of cancer cell phone radiation, not scalar waves. And for directed energy weapon torture they also use scalar waves, not microwaves. So perhaps that's a reason. And it's very well possible, and I think they also send voice-to-skull messages with this scalar technology, not with microwaves. And Citizens Action Network makes clear with the graphic that all intelligence agencies are Masonic and controlled by the Jesuits. So they can do extremely accurate remote torture, imposed energy predictable mode, and active denial system mode. It's explained further online. I have a good draw. So the point is that I think that the 2019 Iran floods are no coincidence. From mid-March to April 2019, widespread flash flooding affected large parts of Iran, most severely in Golestan, Fars, Khuzestan, Lorestan, and other provinces. Iran has been hit by 3 major waves of rain and flooding over the course of 2 weeks, which led to flooding in at least 26 of Iran's 31 provinces, and at least 70 people died nationwide as of 6th of April, according to the officials. The first wave of rain began on 17th of March, leading to flooding in 2 northern provinces, etc. So that's the wiki/2019_Iran_flood article you can study online. And that came at the time that Trump also began focusing on Iran and the sanctions, etc. Reimposing sanctions also. And then there was that cancer oil tanker attack with that hole above sea level. and the eyewitness that claimed that it was a projectile, so that it may have been attacked by a drone in reality, and perhaps that's why they did the drone thing after that. So it's possible that Iran is correct, that it did fly above Iranian territory. I haven't looked into that. And is it possible a civilian has technology to do this, with the dark web being real, etc.? And why can't they just big ban the dark web, like they did with Silk Road? So I'm for minimizing casualties and also preventing world war, to get control of these factors that control aging in time with these neural networks. And I'm against spinning into the sun or running into other things that could occur if lots of nukes would go off, and these scalar weapons that never happened before, so then new things could arise. And if there are 15 scalar weapon countries, then that could be the end of humanity, theoretically. Because Tesla made clear that his weapon could be used to split the earth, etc. The vegetarian Nikola Tesla, who made clear it's to end all wars. So basically it's the weapon of all weapons, the death ray. And it's possible the Jesuits control them all, but they can also take out these controller agents if they do anything that they don't want them to. And it's a computer program, so it may be programmed to protect certain individuals at the cost of 7 billion people, basically. And a fair trial is impossible because they can remotely torture people, but dental torture is very severe, very painful. They induce the maximum amount of pain by stimulating the nerves directly. And they also use the same technology to silence everybody about it. More about this stuff in my scalar patterns overview. The whole real patterns, and also some explanations and personal experiences and what we should do to prevent further abuse. And I think perhaps the perpetrators, the abusers themselves, are sometimes the only ones that could prevent it and end it, and make love instead, or do something else that's nicer.
Of the flying debris can be subjected to smaller, more intense Tesla globes where the energy density to destroy is more powerful than the larger globe first encountered. This can be done in pulse mode with any remaining debris given maximum continuous heating to vaporize metals and materials. If anything still rains down on Russia or America, either could have already made a Tesla shield over the targeted area to block it from entering the airspace. 2. How were scalar waves discovered? Scalar wavelengths are finer than gamma rays or X-rays and only 100 millionth of a square centimeter in width. They belong to the subtle gravitational field and are also known as gravitic waves. Uniquely, they flow in multiple directions at right angles off electromagnetic waves, as an untapped energy source called potentials. Potentials or particles which are unorganized in hyperspace, pure etheric energy not manifest in the physical world. In comparison, electromagnetic waves, measured by so many hertz or pulses per second, which we are familiar with, for example radio waves, exist normally in the physical world, but can only be measured up to levels determined by the sensitivity of the equipment being used as to how many cycles per second they operate. Scalar waves were originally detected by a Scottish mathematical genius called James Clerk Maxwell, 1831 to 1879. He linked electricity and magnetism and laid the foundation for modern physics, but unfortunately the very fine scalar waves, which he included in his research, were deliberately left out of his work by the three men, including Heinrich Hertz, who laid down the laws taught for physics as a discipline at colleges. They dismissed Maxwell's scalar waves or potentials as mystical because they were physically unmanifest and only existed in the ethers, and so were determined to be too ineffectual for further study.
So people can check the patterns, and perhaps it's a good thing that this stuff is online, that we know about this, because most humans are not murderers, and what we see in the movies and in the news can be very bad and evil, but most people are very nice, and believers would say they have a loving soul, a pure soul. It's also a spiritual exercise, and I think humans do have some love for their fellow humans usually. At least for the ones that didn't torture them. So it's good to keep in mind that people around you are also victims of this technology. Everybody without a Tesla plasma shield is, and they may attempt to play their enemies out against each other. They may have a smear campaign against me. And some of them might still want to reduce the global population to 500 million and rule the world from Jerusalem, create a global government, or rather impose it after reducing the global population to 500 million, illegal Georgia Guidestones and book quotes. So perhaps somebody could explain to me how that cannot be illegal when you advocate maintaining the global population at 500 million. It means 7 billion people have to be annihilated or die somehow. Though the government is paid to protect and serve the taxpayers. And you could argue it's also in violation of the Constitution to do away with the US to create a global government. So therefore you could argue pursuing a global government is in violation of the constitutional oath to protect the country against enemies, foreign and domestic. And you have the Genocide Convention, and advocating killing one person is illegal already, let alone reducing the global population with airborne Ebola and other population reduction methods. You can read quotes about it, but they all seem to have, or most of them have, the number of 500 million that we also find on these Georgia Guidestones. So that could be an indication they could be extorted with directed energy weapons by people that have a certain agenda. But I think it's stupid to do it, at least as long as we don't control all factors that control aging it. And I know it can be done, for everything is energy. So my precognitive visions could be my own. If we have a scalar interferometer between our ears, like Tom Bearden claims, developed by evolution, formed by evolution, abiogenesis, also interesting. And yeah, so they use pulsed energy predictal mode and ADS, active denial system mode. And the electromagnetic field with the characteristics they desire is generated where these two scalar waves are crossed. And these scalar waves can travel faster than the speed of light, some types, and they travel through all materials known to man. My grounded Van de Graaff generator did deflect the beam a little bit. The beam So yeah, instead of Mr. Bean, they could make a Mr. Beam. Some mad scientist that does things to people with the beam. And then things can go wrong, so that the opposite of what Mr. Beam wants happens. So the answer is coils. People can look up scalar coils, or sucker punch, and then you can generate your own healing Dr. Rai frequencies, but I think more research needs to be done. And it's illegal to block a working cure from the public, so that includes the frequencies that people need to survive. So perhaps the government will get punished for that someday, if they're withholding intelligence from us all. That would benefit the US citizens and also people around the world.
These enigmatic, but more powerful than even microwaves when harnessed and concentrated into a beam, scalar waves may have been forgotten, except that Nikola Tesla accidentally rediscovered them. He'd originally worked with Thomas Edison, who discovered direct current, but Tesla discovered alternating current. The two men disagreed and eventually parted ways, and Tesla later experimented using the research of the German Heinrich Hertz, who was proving the existence of electromagnetic waves. Tesla found, while experimenting with violently abrupt direct current electrical charges, that a new form of energy, scalar, came through. By 1904, Tesla had developed transmitters to harness scalar energy from one transmitter to another, undetectably bypassing time and space. He could just materialize it from one place to another through hyperspace, without the use of wires. It was just sucked right out of the space-time/vacuum and into a transmitter and into a beam which could be targeted to another transmitter. Unfortunately, he got no financial support for replacing electricity, which used wires and therefore earned money, and to this day, this is the reason why scalar energy is still not acknowledged in mainstream physics. Tesla, even though he discovered more for mankind in science than many others, is still not credited in science books for his discovery of scalar waves, a source of free energy obtainable as a limitless source of power that costs nothing. Other inventors have sporadically rediscovered free energy but have come to harm or have been silenced by the sum of millions of dollars hush money, a small sum compared to the sale of electricity, oil, gas and a myriad of other energy producers which would then be rendered worthless. Money-hungry big business has harshly crushed any opposition to their own riches, generated by multiple obsolete earth-polluting fossil fuels. 3. A closer look at scalar waveforms. These finer scalar waveforms also have been discovered periodically by other mathematicians, who have been able to calculate new equations, especially in harmonics, used in hyperdimensional physics, connecting the wavelengths of matter, gravity and light to each other, and how all these lock in and create our expression of time, as it manifests in space, which has been now discovered to be untapped potential energy flowing in hyperspace. Time flows like a waveform river in hyperspace in a grid pattern. This consists of interlocking great circles which circle the poles and include a lattice grid of lines that are 30 nautical miles or 55.5 kilometers apart. When scalar beams charge through hyperspace, these rivers of time get blocked and redirected temporarily. There is a covert plan underfoot to change the way time is expressed on this planet altogether using hyperdimensional physics and Tesla technology, by splicing Earth back onto a now defunct Atlantean timeline in which Lucifer hadn't fallen from grace. See my other work on this in the books The Universal Seduction Vols 2 and 3 at the end of this article. Our present reality is expressed in the way time runs around the corridors in hyperspace by the pattern it takes. Other timelines exist in a different kind of grid pattern, creating alternative versions of our present. Multiple versions of reality, or for example April 2, 2004, can be manipulated given the right technology, and people can enter into parallel universes, do all sorts of things and then enter back into this one. One needs a Tesla zero-time reference generator, which can lodge a specific reality into the time at the center of the universe, in which it stays still, acting like an anchor. Both America and the UK government are able to manipulate and enter into different realities. The various dimensions each comprise a complex pattern of interlocking waveforms. Matter has been found to be only one wave of a pulse comprising a positive cycle, while the negative cycle manifests as antimatter. The matter pulse brings something into physical visibility, then it disappears momentarily and returns, but the pulses are so rapid we don't see something as unmanifest while temporarily dematerializing. Physical time is only measured by the visibility of something's aging process, or in other words its passage through a journey starting at one measured time reference point to another. Different waveforms only appear to us to be solid because we are comprised of the same matter. If the frequencies governing the time between a matter pulse and an antimatter pulse are shortened or lengthened with technology, time will go faster or slower in the surrounding space or what it affects. Therefore scalar waves belong to space-time in which antimatter or hyperspace exists. Time can be altered by harnessed and directed scalar waves, including magnets which give off scalar waves which bend time, because they disrupt the pulse of matter and antimatter and therefore the rate at which something normally passes through time with its usual smoothness. An experiment with scalar waves in USA once caused all the clocks and watches in the test neighborhood to go berserk for 4 days, until the flow of time resettled back to its normal flow and they returned as before. This was noted by Frank Golden. Scalar potentials can be created artificially and when focused into a weapon, can do major damage to an object's location in space-time. That which determines the object's natural pulse of matter and antimatter cycle can become stressed when targeted by scalar waves made of artificial potentials, because they are almost always absorbed by the nucleus of an atom, not the electrons in orbit. Hyperspace can become warped temporarily. Although space-time naturally curves around natural vortexes the Earth has which form chakras to absorb and release universal energies. These are opened and closed in natural cycles according to the positions of the Sun and Moon in relation to Earth. Because scalar waves are finer than gamma waves they can pass through any physical substance undetected. However, the damage inflicted can be so powerful that they can dislodge an object right out of time in space and cause it to temporarily disappear away from its normal movement in time. All objects move in time, and they will also move in space if a physical external force activates the object's own natural internal scalar waves to point in the direction it is sent to, causing it to move from A to B depending on how much force is used. Or they are trapped motionless in space by the internal scalar energy within swirling around interlocking into a deadlock, making it appear still, however the object still moves in time. A beam of scalar energy can cause the time frame the object resides in to get warped, making it disappear into another reality. 4. How do scalar weapons work? Particles which are unorganized in hyperspace, potentials, can be harnessed into recreating multiple frequencies of scalar waves, and these can now be manufactured artificially and can include frequencies between infrared and ultraviolet. If a transmitter is at a higher reference potential than the interference zone of two cross-scalar beams, energy emerges into the plasma bottle which materializes physically, and this is called exothermic mode. This can cause explosions and can be nuclear-like if set at a high frequency.
Universal peace now. So here we see the original 1958 sketches for the peace sign, peace symbol, by Gerald Holtom. And here we see it stands for ND, semaphore, nuclear disarmament. Holton was inspired by flag semaphore used for communication at sea, using signalmen holding flags. Modern semaphore includes signals for each letter of the alphabet. Holtam used the signals for N, nuclear, and D, disarmament, and juxtaposed them over a circle to create the modern symbol for peace.
Universal peace. Now, legal status.
Even though no electromagnetic energy has flown through space between the transmitters and the target, and because it has bypassed physical space, the energy can suddenly appear faster than the speed of light and destroy something without warning. It is only as a locked and artificial potential that is a directed river of force in hyperspace, and it is entirely undetectable with conventional scientific equipment, which is where the danger lies. Nobody can ever know what the enemy is planning or who their enemies are, and because it never gets any press, normal military personnel without this knowledge would never know what hit them, especially if it is scalar mind control. To extract energy back to the transmitters from the energy bottle of 2 cross-scalar beams, the potential must be set at a lower mode, and this is called endothermic mode, and as energy is extracted out of the bottle area, a freezing will occur, possibly causing a thunderous sound. When 2 transmitters send timed pulses, which meet, an explosion will occur which either produces energy or extracts it. If 2 crossed beams are in continuous mode, the energy between beams is continuous, and Tesla globes and hemispheres can be made which act as a continuous shield to either destroy incoming weapons and aircraft hindering it. If multiple frequencies are transmitted on the beams, at the intersection a 3-dimensional globe appears. This can be manipulated to have very high unfolded energy with any desired light emission, shape, color or intensity. It can even cause metal to soften or melt. This bottle of energy can be detonated inside the Earth to create an earthquake or into a building to make a nuclear-like explosion. This bottle can be moved anywhere on the planet or through it and made any size. The Russians in 1985 once threatened the Earth itself by activating their scalar weapons with multiple scalar transmitters turned on at once, endangering the survival of the entire planet. According to nuclear physicist Bearden, they conducted a massive, full-up scalar weapon systems and communications strategic exercise. During this sudden exercise, American Frank Golden discovered the Russians activated 27 gigantic power taps, established by resonating the Earth electrogravitationally on 54 powerful scalar frequencies. 27 pairs where the 2 are separated from each other by 12 kHz, transmitted into the Earth, and they utilize this to stimulate the Earth into forced electrogravitational resonance on all 54 frequencies. Each of the 27 power taps extracted enormous energy from the molten core of the Earth itself, and turning it into ordinary electrical power. Each giant tap is capable of powering 4 to 6 of the largest scalar M howitzers possessed by Russia, Bearden writes. Apparently over 100 giant scalar M weapons were activated and a large number of command and control transmissions, and it lasted several days. By alternating the potentials and loads of each of the 2 paired transmitters, electrical energy in enormous amounts can be extracted from the Earth itself, fed by the giant cathode that is the Earth's molten core. Scalar M command and control systems, including high data rate communications with underwater submarines, were also activated on a massive scale. The exercise went on for several days, as power taps were switched in and out, and command and control systems went up and down. Bearden claims not one American intelligence lab, or scientist detected this, as they didn't have a detector for scalar M radiation, and that not one officially believes that the exercise ever happened. However, it was monitored on an advanced, proprietary detection system by Frank Golden for several days and by Bearden for several hours. This exercise proved Brezhnev's 1972 statement that by 1985 the Soviets would be prepared to do as they wish, anywhere in the world. The Soviets are using unknown attributes of matter, phenomena and laws of nature by research covering the equivalent of 7-8 US atom bomb projects back-to-back already. However, both America and Russia are doing through the Earth's scalar beam transmissions, and ever since then Earth's internal dynamo has been affected. It suddenly experienced a sudden unexpected slowdown in rotation 1984. It has become like an unbalanced washing machine, wobbling as it spins. Scalar waves pass naturally between the center of the Earth and the Sun, and this coupled with multiple and nuclear tests, which have been proven to disturb the ionosphere and magnetic field, the balance of the Earth with the Moon, may even cause the Earth to flip, if the naturally produced scalar waves are diverted onto another course, which are keeping the Earth spinning harmoniously. 5. What can scalar weapons do? A Tesla shield protecting a military target could be made of 3 or more concentric shields, that would produce multiple electromagnetic pulse energy and severe heating of anything which enters it. These concentric Tesla shields can also clean up and sterilize any gamma radiation resulting from an explosion of a nuclear warhead. Nikola Tesla even in the 1920s could create a protective 3-dimensional shield or dome formed by 2 or more transmitters sending widened scalar beams linked together over a target in a hemisphere shape, instead of causing the target to explode, which narrow more intense cross beams would. A wider, more encompassing beam could form a large plasma shell outside something to be protected. This acted like an electrifying force field shaped like a dome, which could cause anything which entered it to have its technology dudded, inoperative, make incoming aircraft pilots die by destroying their nervous system, or make an incoming missile, aircraft or tank blow up. Multiple layers could be nested made of different kinds of plasmas, which would ensure nothing could penetrate protected targets' ground space or airspace. The Russians can make a Tesla shield up to 200 miles wide. These large luminous plasma shields have been witnessed by sailors over the oceans from time to time, as various nations test their scalar weapons in secret. Tesla, as early as the 1920s, created globe-absorb bullets of plasma with cross-scalar beams sucking the energy out of the airspace in a cold explosion, causing it to freeze, or sending extreme heat into it to burn as a very powerful laser beam. These powerful beams can also travel right through the Earth and create an earthquake at the antipodes of the Earth, and Tesla also experimented doing this. Hyperspace flux energy, potentials, flows as waves in a sea of intense power in the next dimension unharnessed. However, when energy is manufactured artificially, it can be made into different modes: Z.G pulse mode, energy extraction mode, or explosion mode. If 2 timed pulses meet, an explosion extraction makes a sharp cooling and all heated energy is extracted out of the air back to the transmitter. This can make everything and everyone frozen. It preserves machines and buildings but not people. If a burning energy is sent, the target has a nuclear-like detonation because energy emerges to a target, destroying the nucleus of the atoms. Multiple scalar wave modes and frequencies can also be blended together into one beam as well. Tesla globes can be manipulated to be small or large in manifold kinds of energy frequencies and directed to a target by 2 or more faraway scalar transmitters. Many intense frequency small globes can be directed towards multiple incoming targets, like cannonballs causing major explosions. Alternatively, a larger, less intense globe sent can cause the electrics to dud in a plane, helicopter or missile, causing it to malfunction and crash land. This technology has been used many times to crash planes or helicopters by using a portable scalar bazooka carried by a hidden terrorist or soldier. The Vietnamese and Soviets used this technology in the Vietnam War against American aircraft. Many planes crashes with inexplicable causes can be traced to this. These Russian-made portable bazookas were also used by the Serbs against American helicopters during the Bosnian War. The Soviets used scalar weapons against the Afghanistans during their war. One may wonder if this explains current American helicopter crashes in Afghanistan and Iraq. Scalar waves can be used for impenetrable communication inside an ordinary carrier wave. Artificial potentials can be used for two-way communication with submarines, aircraft and ships. Scalar waves can be used to tap into normal communications even when encrypted. They can even destroy the enemy's equipment if they wish, using lock-in mode to locate the source or just continue eavesdropping. Radar invisibility can be done by putting multiple transmitters around something to make a spherical interference shell in the bandwidth of the searching radar. Nothing in the air is safe with scalar weapons or anything on the ground, because any building can be penetrated and the inside contents destroyed from either narrow or wide crossed beams. There is nowhere to hide. Scalar beams can be sent by aircraft or satellite or even from the government UFOs of Russia, Britain, Australia and America. They can be sent from the UFOs the Nazis developed secretly in Germany during WW2, and which were relocated to their underground bases in Antarctica and all over South America before the war ended. 6. Scalar beams against individuals, to totally destroy a person's nervous system and kill them instantaneously. A scalar weapon can be set on high-intensity pulse mode. This will destroy every living cell, bacteria and all germs so the body falls down like a limp rag, not even decaying in even 30-45 days. There is no living aspect left to decay. Entire groups of people can be killed this way even in a 50-mile radius on peak power. Scalar beams set on a lower power can render a person unconscious to be revived at a later date for interrogation. Cross-scalar beams can cover a whole range of targets from something right through the other side of the Earth, to anything under the sea or ground. Not even metal will suffice to protect, as a metal softening mode can be deployed. Scalar beams can be put into X-ray mode where a screen can show what is inside something, even under the sea and Earth or inside buildings. This is called the remote viewing radar. Anything in the sky can be instantly destroyed even from one country to another. All one country needs to destroy anything skybound in an enemy's country is to put 2 or more scalar transmitters forming a scalar waveform interference grid whereby a shield is locked over a country in high-intensity mode, and this will cause anything which enters it to be destroyed. This could also destroy anything in the sea and detonate mines. The explosion shows up on the screen as a blossoming of the moving light on the square. The Russians mainly use their interference grids over the USA to control the weather, moving hot or cold air where they can meet and create storms, hurricanes, torrential rain or droughts as they please. Earthquakes can be created along with volcanoes erupting according to Tom Bearden. Moisture can be brought from the ocean and sent over land, and cold air from the north sent south. Violent thunderstorms can be created. He also claims since 1989 the Japanese Yazuka and OMNIVORES leased scalar interferometers from the Russians to do weather engineering over the USA. However, America can fight back with their own scalar weapons. One can silently down passenger planes as need be by sending low-frequency scalar beam to make the engine fail, either from the interference grid squares or from even portable shoulder scalar weapon bazookas, which can be targeted at helicopters or any aircraft above. Surface naval vessels can be attacked through their hulls, as well as ocean bottom mines detonated. Any aircraft, or land vessels including tanks, can be fitted with portable scalar weapons, though tanks can easily be destroyed with them. Tom Bearden claims that the Soviets and Americans have been silently downing each other's aircraft since the 1980s. Soviet-made scalar weapons downed American aircraft in Vietnam. Right from when USA put up their first satellites, the Russians have been shooting them down in cloaked Russian-made UFOs with scalar and particle beam weapons. Between 1977 and 1982, Russia shot down many US satellites. At that time they wanted complete control over the skies and had put up killer satellites complete with beam weapons to target US satellites and even the space shuttles. It has been claimed by Tom Bearden that all the early space shuttles were shot down by the Russians and duplicate shuttles were landed from another base. There was a mad rush by the US Gov to develop beam weapons to defend themselves against the Russians, and they did this, eventually shooting down a couple of the Russian-made UFOs containing beam weapons. Revenge silently followed by passenger planes of each other's countries being targeted. 7. Scalar mind control. In the early 1970s, hundreds of inmates at the Gunnison facility of the Utah State Prison were subjected to scalar wave mind control. Inmates tried unsuccessfully to fight back in court. The University of Utah researched at that time how scalar waves could induce the mind into hearing voices, overriding and implanting thoughts into the mind, as well as reading the thoughts. They also developed high implants. In 1998, scalar waves were used to test subliminal voices in the head in 2 Utah prisons. In Draper Prison, Utah, a man called David Fratis in 1988 claimed voices in his inner ears were induced in him as clear as if listening to a set of stereo headphones. The mind control victims of US Gov implants are also subjected to artificial voices in the head, which are sent on scalar beam by satellite and the HARP transmitters and relayed to the Gwyn towers placed approximately every 200 miles across USA. Many of the messages relayed into these American mind control victims are said to come from aliens, with a message for mankind. These alien messages were first given to the prisoners in Utah and they all got the same messages. The Russians, having a head start on decoding the brain, can send subliminal messages by satellite over whole countries in their own languages, in scalar waves so subtle that the victims think they are their own thoughts occurring. They could make people think God is speaking to them and can also give a people suicidal thoughts. There is a suicide wavelength. The Russians and Israelis have been said to do this on mind control data websites, as well. The Americans have been using these subliminals to give voices in the head messages, which includes to those with CIA or military controlled implants, that are supposedly from aliens or the Holy Spirit, to say, for example, the second coming will be here soon, or Earth needs to be evacuated and the person has been chosen. Only certain people can pick this up according to whether they have implants, which relay messages into the head, or if they are natural telepathics. The mineral selenium, when ingested beyond normal levels, is said to increase the capacity to hear voices in the head, though certain races have a higher hearing threshold and are able to pick up synthetic telepathy sent through the atmosphere more than others. Russia's scalar transmitters are called woodpeckers because of the woodpecker-type tapping transmissions detected from them on the radio band. They have the technology to send subliminals right into a person's subconscious, bypassing the brain, and could drastically influence the thoughts, vision, physical functioning, emotions and conscious state of a person by sending in subliminal signals even from a great distance. In the late 1960s, the Soviets broke the genetic code of the human brain. It had 44 digits or less and employed 22 frequency bands across nearly the whole M spectrum, but only 11 of the frequency bands were independent. The Soviets found they could make a person do something just by sending subliminals into the body, bypassing the ears. Up to 16 of the Russian woodpecker scalar transmitters have been observed to carry a common phase lock 10 Hz modulation. 10 Hz is used to put people into a hypnotic state. The Russians can manipulate the moods of everyone in a 75-mile radius, with a circularly polarized antenna, and people's bodies have been shown to pick up the new mode of expression. Even sleep frequency will make everyone tired and fall asleep. 8. America's no-contact mass mind-controlling network. According to the book Project Tell Your CID by Tinks Mars, John Street Clarac claims that the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, has had the most advanced computers in the world since the 1960s. The Signals Intelligence (SIGINT) mission of the NSA uses scalar waves for blanket coverage of the USA and can wirelessly tap into any computer in the USA and read the contents, as well as track people by the electrical currents in their bodies, which emanates a particular signature frequency. This is possible because everything in the environment gives off scalar waves at right-angle rotations off the normal electromagnetic wave. These can be searched for and tracked and are not subject to constraints of time and space. A person's frequency can be stored on a supercomputer and this can be tracked anywhere. They can be sent subliminal words sent in scalar waves which are so subtle that the person will think they are their own thoughts. Also, NSA uses a secret program, developed since the culture mind control program of the 1950s, what is called radiation intelligence. Scientific research from this is withheld from the public and there are international intelligence agreements to keep this technology secret. Using this technology, the NSA records and decodes individual brain maps of hundreds of thousands of people for national security purposes. It is also used secretly by the military for a brain-to-computer link. Activity in the speech center of the brain can be translated into the subject's verbal thoughts and can also show up activity from their visual cortex on a video monitor. NSA operatives can see what the subject is seeing. Visual memory can also be seen and the NSA can place images directly into the visual cortex, bypassing the eyes and the optic nerves. When the target sleeps secretly, images can be installed into the brain during REM sleep for brain programming purposes. Speech, 3D sound, and subliminal audio can also be sent to the auditory cortex of the brain, bypassing the ears. This remote neural monitoring, RNM, can completely alter a subject's perceptions, moods and motor control. Different brainwave frequencies are connected with various parts of the body, and when the right frequency to activate a section of the body is sent, a person is powerless to stop it. Pain can be induced in mind control victims this way by targeting a section of the body. This has been spoken of by many mind control victims, accompanied by voices in the head by the operators coolly asking if it hurt, and all done remotely without any physical contact with the victim. There has been a Cygent wireless scalar wave brain monitoring network in the US since the 1940s, according to John Street Clear. He tells us how it is done with digitally decoding the evoked potentials. See first section for more on potentials. In the 30 to 50 Hz, 5 mW electromagnetic emissions from the brain. In these emissions, spikes and patterns show as evoked potentials. Every thought, reaction, motor command, auditory event and visual image in the brain has a corresponding evoked potential or set of evoked potentials. These can be decoded into the current thoughts, images and sounds going on in a target's brain. When complexly coded signals are sent to a victim, bypassing the eyes, optic nerves and ears, the faint images appear as floating 2D screens in the brain. Auditory hallucinations can be induced, creating paranoid schizophrenia. The frequency the brain areas respond to are from 3 Hz to 50 Hz. For each brain area these are used: brain area, bioelectric resonance frequency, information induced through modulation. Motor control cortex, 10 Hz, motor impulse coordination auditory cortex, 15 Hz, sound which bypasses the ear's visual cortex, 25 Hz, images in the brain, bypassing the eye's somasensory, 9 Hz, phantom touch sense thought center, 20 Hz, impose subconscious thoughts. Only the NSA modulates this signal band into evoked potentials or scalar carriers. There are about 100 people working 24 hours a day for the NSA at Fort Meade on this remote neural monitoring, RNM. John Street Clear after being harassed by this NSA technology, brought a lawsuit against the NSA. During the lawsuit process he was harassed by 3D Sound, and his associates were also harassed to keep him isolated. No action was taken against the NSA in the 1991 lawsuit. In 1967 an internationally renowned scientist and Christopher Hills, a pendulum expert, communicated with some ETs. It is not known who the scientist was, but at one time both Hills and Buharic were working with the medium Eileen Garrett, and Buharic was communicating with ETs called the Nine. The same ETs that the Bilderberger Group, comprised of world leaders and European royals, who control the affairs of the planet. This is what the ETs told Christopher Hills via pendulum. In short, ETs communicated with us via modulated radio waves, between 10,000 and 20,000 cycles below the known electromagnetic spectrum, in the carrier wave by amplitude modulation, mixed with frequency modulation, single band energy, transmission power less than 25 watts, a naturally present wave on Earth. The brain modulated, a wave that resonates between the Earth and the ionosphere. All humans influence the ionosphere in this manner, a reflecting technique involved. The brain modulation consisted of pulses, akin to those known from neuropulses. 2 humans can use this, related to something akin to low-frequency radar and to ultrasonic techniques but qualified, a mixed electroacoustic wave function. The electromagnetic wave induced an ultrasonic transduction in human tissue. The brain radiation has a sonic component to it as well as an electromagnetic component. Electromagnetic radiation has a sonic component and it's dependent on the medium through which it travels. The scientist cut through months of work. Now HARP is slicing up the ionosphere, the world brain, like a microwave knife, producing long tear incisions, destroying the membrane which holds the reservoir of data accumulated by all Earth's history. HARP has already punched 360 by 30 miles holes in the ionosphere. 9. Inducing diseases with scalar waves. Tom Bearden also writes that a more advanced form of scalar weapon is known as a quantum potential weapon has been developed by US, Russia, China, Israel and possibly Brazil. These weapons mimic the signature or frequency of a disease by recreating them on scalar carriers. Also, any disease can be imprinted onto our cellular system using frequencies ranging from ultraviolet to infrared, whole populations can have new diseases and death-induced as well as latent diseases being activated with quantum potential diseases in targeted areas. Manufactured symptoms of radiation poisoning, chemical poisoning, bacterial infection and even the effects of many kinds of drugs including hallucinogenic ones can be induced with these very subtle scalar waves which flow in hyperspace or the sea of ether. They become embedded right into the immune system or etheric counterpart of the physical body. On the www.freedomdomain.com site, a man called Kuznetsov found that the induction of diseases could be affected by the woodpecker scalar transmitters in the near ultraviolet range. Experiments at the University of Marburg in West Germany duplicated these disease-inducing scalar wave experiments in infrared. Dr. Popp of West Germany, after analyzing the virtual photon master control system of the cells, found that scalar virtual particle flux, which determines the genetic blueprint pattern of the cells, can be easily entered with scalar techniques to induce disease and cell disorder at will. 10. Tesla's scalar wave technology was secretly continued by Russia and the Nazis. While the American government rejected Tesla's energy without wires and left him penniless, Russia and Germany asked Tesla to work for them. He turned them down, but according to Preston Nichols, he faked his death in 1943 and was spirited away to the UK. From then on, it was a frenzied battle between the Soviets and Germany to develop scalar technology. Russia got a head start in learning how scalar waves can be drawn from hyperspace by sending an agent to seek out a man in Utah who built a machine for doing this. Utah, a Soviet agent, destroyed the device after learning how the machine operated. The man, Th. Moria, learned about Tesla's sea of ether and had made a scalar interferometer. Germany had developed anti-gravity technology in 1939 by back-engineering a crashed UFO. By WW2, they led the world in radar and infrared science as well as radar-absorbing materials and radar cross-section. Some leading Western experts think they developed radar cross-section beyond Western levels today, but there is evidence of an alien alliance during the war, so this may have been influential. The Germans were using time-reversed waves, which caused a scalar wave to follow back and respond to the source of a received ordinary electromagnetic wave. During WW2, many of the best Nazi scientists escaped to a base they developed secretly in Antarctica, getting supplies from South Africa as well as to German communities in Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and other Latin America countries. After the war, Americans moved the remainder of the best Nazi scientists to US, with the Soviets, French and British taking the remainder to their countries. However, the Soviets became angry at the Americans for taking first choice of Nazi scientific brains, so in 1946 they just cleaned out the majority of scientists and technicians back to the Soviet Union, about 275,000 men plus all their families from Soviet-occupied Eastern Germany. By the 1950s, the Soviets had developed time-reversed waves. They has also forced the captured Germans to build them a fleet of anti-grav saucers complete with particle beam and scalar beam weapons. In Antarctica, the Nazis had Tesla's death ray, capable of sending a lethal beam even to the moon to create an incandescent spot. When aimed at it, Tesla devastated with his death ray, likened to a modern-day particle beam weapon. According to Al Bielek, the Russians have particle beam weapons which can shoot 1,000 miles into space, and they use these to shoot down any UFO within 200 miles radius of their sky. The Americans also have many particle beam weapons and they too shoot down UFOs. There is apparently a war going on in space, and the Russians and Americans have secretly got together to fight it. It is unknown who the UFO occupants are, but the Nazis in Antarctica are said to be invincible with their super weapons. 11. Is there a secret war going in the skies? Japan now has scalar weapons and has got together with Russia to develop them. In 1991, according to Harry Mason, Russian President Gorbachev offered to lease the Japanese the super-secret intercontinental scalar weapons, capable of producing earthquakes for $900 million, which they'd used in the Soviet Union since the 1960s. Tom Bearden also claims they leased them in 1989. A joint Russian-Japanese university was set up to develop new weapons with Japanese microchips to overpower the US and jointly rule the world. After Tesla died in 1943, his papers were sent to a Tesla museum in Yugoslavia. where the Japanese obtained the knowledge of Tesla technology. The scalar weapons were developed by a Japanese scientist an IQ higher than Einstein. They too, like the Americans, tested their scalar weapons in the outback of Western Australia, possibly using a base in Antarctica in which to send scalar waves to their Australian transmitter to produce earthquakes and Tesla globes. The Japanese scalar scientists are tied up with various cults and feel that the Japanese emperor should rule the planet, as well as having a policy of exacting revenge on former enemies, culminating in a final war against the Christian West and Islamic world. It is the Japanese OMNIVORES sect and Yakuza Mafia who are still leasing the Russian scalar transmitters and have steadily used them for weather engineering over America since the 90s for target practice. Bearden claims that the Japanese may be allowed by the Russians to down planes now and then. The Japanese cult members in their graft are also tied up with North Korean cult members. The Russians have been weather engineering over America since the 1960s using their interference grid to target specific areas. 12. WHO else is continuing Tesla's scalar technology. Unlike Western universities, Eastern Europe and Russia have always included Tesla's scalar wave research openly in their curriculum, and so they got a head start with multiple facilities built all over the Soviet Union to build scalar weapon transmitters starting from the 1950s. This was further hastened by making captured East German scientists work for the Soviets, leading that country straight into the space age, giving them UFOs fitted with scalar and particle beam weapons. The UFOs even had cloaking technology. America, even though they had Nazi scientists working for them after the war at Area 51 on anti-gravity, didn't realize how advanced the Soviets had become with scalar technology until they found out they'd been secretly attacked during the 1950s undetected. In 1960, the Soviet Premier Khrushchev announced to the world that they had super weapons. In 1963, they deliberately destroyed a U.S. atomic submarine undersea by Puerto Rico with scalar weapons. The next day, over the Puerto Rico Trench, the Soviets used scalar weapons in a different mode to produce a giant underwater explosion. U.S. was defenseless against an unknown type of weapon. In 1965, the Great Sandy Desert in Western Australia was mapped out and chosen by the U.S. Gov to begin scalar weapons testing, even though officially Tesla's papers were kept by the FBI after he died and were labeled top secret, lest they get into the hands of the enemy. Tesla had passed all his knowledge and research on to a young American physicist 2 weeks before he died in 1943. The U.S. military in Western Australia tested cross-scalar beams aimed into the ground to create earthquakes on a target map of squares, and also created Tesla globes from cross-scalar beams in the sky. Pine Gap, the secret underground American military base, has 2 scalar transmitters, and they also have at least another in Exmouth, in Western Australia. Other American scalar transmitters besides various ones all over USA are at Alaska, Puerto Rico, Greenland, Norway and Antarctica. Though many countries have scalar weapons now, other countries could easily be a target of those with scalar weapons and never know it was the cause of their explosions, mind control or weather engineering. So of course more and more countries are getting the scalar technology, needing it to defend themselves as well, and this keeps getting passed on, especially by the Russians. The other thing is, one may know it is a scalar attack but have no idea who did it. The known countries which have scalar weapons are America, Russia, France, Australia, Germany, Japan, China, Taiwan, South Africa, Israel, Brazil, UK and Argentina, as well as various populations of Nazis still operating in Antarctica and all over South America. It is unknown how Brazilians got scalar weapons and quantum potential weapons, but the Brazilians have had alien technology for some time, and also the Vatican has covert technology and has been said to have a base for this in STH America for their secret space program. There is extensive coverage of Brazil's space program in my 40-page article Scalar Weapons. Read it and weep in Volume 3 of the www.theuniverseseduction.com book series. This covers China and Japan's weapons as well as extensive coverage of Russia's attacks on America, especially the space shuttles and the technology of the Nazis in Antarctica. Others may have them, such as Ukraine and North Korea, but as yet no proof exists for these countries. Even in the alternative press, not enough has been said about scalar weapons, to the extent where normal conspiracy researchers and writers are as familiar with their dangers as they should be, because even online they hardly get a mention on conspiracy sites. Yet they are probably the most life-threatening thing on the planet. For further information on this topic, http://www.theuniverseseduction.com. The Universal Seduction Volume 3, Scalar Weapons, Read It and Weep by Christy Verismo. For more on America's use of Tesla technology and jointalian, U.S. military underground bases in Australia, anti-gravity technology and use of time portals, The Universal Seduction Volume 2, Pine Gap, Australia's Area 51 by Christy Verismo, The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla by Tim Swartz and Mind Control by Tim Swartz, and The Universal Seduction Volume 1 and The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla, HARP, Chemtrails and the Secret of Alternative 4. http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/swartz.html, Secret Black Projects of the NWO by Tim Swartz, Abelard Productions, http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/swartz.html, About the Nazis in Antarctica, Evil Agenda of the Secret Government by Tim Swartz, http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/swartz.html, Nikola Tesla, Journey to Mars, Are We Already There? By Sean K. Steele, http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/teslabooks.html, Nikola Tesla, Free Energy and the White Dove by Commander X, http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/commanderx.html, Incredible Technologies of the New World Order, UFOs Tesla Area 51 by Commander X, http://www.members.tripod.com/u4view/commanderx.html, Tom Bearden's Scalar Weapon website, http://www.chenier.org, The Historical Background of Scalar Weapons by Tom Bearden, http://www.jocities.com/area 51/Shadowlands/6583/project 233.html, Tom Bearden on what the Russians have been doing since the late 1950s with scalar technology against the US, and numerous more examples of scalar attacks can be found at http://www.earthgameguest.com/ufo/02098gander.htm, http://216.247.92.101/pub/bearden/examples.htm, http://www.chenier.org/correspondence/110502.htm, Scalar Wars, The Brave New World of Scalar Electromagnetics, http://216.247.92.101/pub/bearden/scalar_wars.htm, for the US and Japanese military testing of scalar weapons in Australia, see Harry Mason's Bright Skies, http://www.mgno.com.repository/secret/brightskis.html, for U.S. scalar activity and jointalian underground bases in Australia, Fortress Australia, http://shroommoremilenews.com/fortress_australia.htm, for the true story of the Russians shooting down the space shuttles and the Russian UFO development, Fire from the Sky, http://www.anomalous.images.com/text/files.html, for more on America's scalar technology, HARP. The Ultimate Weapon of the Conspiracy by Jerry E. Smith, http://www.jerrysmith.com. Also The End of the World by Jerry E. Smith, The Universal Seduction Volume 3, Commentary on Day After Roswell by Sean K. Steele. about reverse engineering crashed UFOs etc., The Universal Seduction Volume 3, also in Volume 3 of The Universal Seduction, 4 more chapters called, U.S. Patents of Mind Control, The Secrets of Mind Control, Domestic Surveillance, Mind Control Technology and the NSA, The Montauk Project and Physics Run Amok by Alexander Bruce. For more on How Time Operates Through the Grid Lines by Bruce Cathy, http://www.jocities.com/capitol hill/parliament/3460/bruce.html. For more on the Nazis' anti-gravity saucers, UFOs Nazi secret weapon, Mattern Friedrich, Samist at Publishers Toronto, Canada, about 1966. For more on the U.S. anti-gravity program, The Hunt for Zero Point by Nick Cook. For Brazil's contact with aliens, My Contact with UFOs, also known as Flying Saucers, by Dino Kraspedon. My website for more data. http://www.angelfire.com/oz/cv/index.html, The Universal Seduction Book Series Vols 1-3, over 70 top conspiracy researchers expose the NWO. They are collectively named Angelico Tapestry. www.theuniverseseduction.com, links. Home. The Universal Seduction Book Series. Excerpts from my article about Pine Gap in the Universal Seduction. Excerpts from Scalar Weapons, Read It and Weep in the Universal Seduction Book. More excerpts from the Universal Seduction Series. My online book, Technorealities, The Fake Second Coming. RS using scalar technology to change our reality. Part 1. RS using scalar technology to change our reality. Part 2. Commander X's Guide to Incredible Conspiracies on Amazon. Commander X's Guide to Incredible Conspiracies at Conspiracy Journal Bookshop. More Commander X books. Enter another dimension and kiss reality as you know it. Goodbye Scalar Weapons.
Universal
Read
Peace
it
now.
and weep. Full text. Visit my YouTube channel, Try Something.Vegetarian.
So that's it for now. I was playing the keyboard. Some of it was pretty good, I think, so please like, subscribe and share on your timeline for universal peace, for a better future, and so it's important to generate healing vibes. Use 432 Hz or 444 Hz, and everything has its own eigenfrequency, its own natural frequency, and everything is energy. So I think that there must be an agreement between Putin and Trump, of course, to avoid a world war. I think that the opposite of a world war is also thinkable. And that nations work together towards creating universal peace in the not a secret society, but a perfect society. And that abrupt transitions may not be best for humanity, that humans also first have to learn how to work with this new technology, and I think they may be doing a lot better than before. But I think it's possible that some people have planned a world war, and that it's better to check where you could survive, and then if the threat becomes real, move with the prepper bag with the radiological water filter and storable food or other things you need to take to a safe place underground that cannot get flooded. And these tidal waves could also cause a big problem for ships at sea. If you have 90-meter high waves. And again, to prevent the Earth from spinning off axis and crashing into the moon, can they take the wobble away, the wobble the Earth is wobbling? Would there be a way with scalar weapons, or in the safest way possible, first experimenting on a small scale? Perhaps they could take the bubble away, basically. Make it spin like it did in the beginning after the Big Bang. And then probably meteors struck, and also there were atomic tests and other things that caused the Earth to wobble. Some think it might even have to do with a sort of time travel grid that they're manipulating reality. Anyway, you'd have to learn from the people that are doing it if you really want to know what's really going on, because if this technology is top secret, then people can make all kinds of things. And there are 15 scalar weapon countries, so why they focus so much on Russia? So I'm getting pretty tired. So thank you all for watching, and tune in next time on Try Something Vegetarian and do stuff for universal peace. People can massage each other and go swimming or eat ice cream, and dipping with cool water can also help to prevent people from getting overheated. Okay, thank you all for watching. Tune in next time. Try something vegetarian or vegan. It's healthiest to be vegan, as long as you take enough vitamin B12, because animal protein and animal fat especially increase your cancer risk. And if you haven't checked it yet, the documentary What the Health on Vimeo is a great docu to watch. Okay, see you next time. Peace out.